morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining How to Speak Maintenance. If you're joining us for the first time, thank you for spending time with us. Our discussions today are about how to better work together as a management team and talk about opportunities for both the office and maintenance teams to work together. My name is Jason Fein. I'm the Maintenance Services Director at Camden Property Trust. And with me is Becca Ramati, who is the Vice President of the Texas Apartment Association Education Foundation. Good morning, Becca.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
Tripped over your name there for a second. I'm sorry about that. With us today, we also have some very special guests. Our first guest is Audrey Kupovics from AMLI. Good morning, Audrey.
Morning.
Good morning. Would you mind telling us about yourself and your experience in the industry?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started in the industry in July of 2020. So it was all new to me. I said goodbye to the travel industry and jumped on board here. About a year and a half in, I was promoted to assistant manager and recently transitioned into operations. So now I'm up at the corporate office doing all the financial things that I was doing on site, but just supporting from afar.
That's great. You're going to add a ton of value to this conversation today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Today, we also have Floyd Smith from the Dinerstein Company. Good morning, Floyd.
Good morning.
Would you mind telling everybody about your experiences in the industry as well?
Yes, I started in the industry in 1993. I started off as a groundskeeper. Now I'm a national maintenance director for TDC, and worked at a bunch of properties, lived in a lot of states, did over 20 properties, lived over 9 states. So I'm familiar with a little bit of every region.
Man, I'm excited. It sounds like both of you have great experience and knowledge from both sides of the house. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of things we can talk about and hopefully teach to our listeners. So today we're going to discuss how apartment management teams can better work together. We always hear the phrase teamwork makes the dream work, but without any concrete ideas on how to make this work, this will only just be a phrase. So I wanted to start the conversation off and say, what experiences do you guys have with building teamwork between the office and maintenance teams, and how did it improve productivity and morale? And either one of you guys can start. Yeah.
Like, who do you want to start?
Audrey, go for it.
Okay, I'll go. So I'm a big fan of having like an open door policy. I'm also just naturally someone who likes to be hands-on. So for me, it's always been important to understand a little bit of maintenance. Like, I may not know how to fix an AC, but I can surely change an air filter. But also just, I think knowledge is power. So especially being on site and having conversations with residents, some of them, we can't fix things overnight, but having a little bit of that understanding and knowledge and being able to explain it in regular people terms and not maintenance mindset, I think helps just kind of problem solve, and working together and communicating obviously is the best way to accomplish that.
I like that. It's respect for the other team, and that can go a long way. And you mentioned communication. I mean, without good communication between the office and maintenance team, it's going to be difficult. So what about you, Floyd? What are your experiences with how the office and when the office and maintenance teams clicked, how it improved morale and productivity?
I think it's a big part when maintenance and office work together. When I first got in the industry, it was kind of like separate. Maintenance did their thing, office did their thing. Every once in a while we get together. And I always been like the person, because I'm a social person. So I've always been the maintenance guy to cross that line and got everybody together, make sure I go to the companies, to the events that the office hold, to show up for the maintenance part and stuff like that. But I think communication is the great key, because without communication, we don't know what either one of us are doing. And we work together, we got to be on the same page.
Well, and at the end of the day, you all have the same goals to, enjoy working together, and especially to take care of your residents and your property. So, maybe that's a good place to start as well, with those shared goals and communicating that.
Yes.
Oh, I think both of you guys have hit on the regular meetings. Sounds like regular meetings is definitely a hot topic. making sure, because sometimes, right, the maintenance team can come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and the office team will come in at 9. And if the maintenance team comes in at 8, has their little catch up, and then they go out in the field, and then the office comes in at 9, there's just they're like passing ships, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like what Floyd was saying about like being involved and like going to like the company events and things like that. A lot of times, maintenance like, well, I'm better off doing something on site. And it's like, no, we want to banter with you. We want to have fun with you. Like, we're not scary. Like, tell me about your day. I'll tell you about mine. You think that residents chill? Well, we'll see,
Yeah.
I love that banter.
Yeah, exactly. And we all got the same goal, to be together and represent our companies. So it shows a lot when both of us are together and working for the same goal.
Yeah. Get to know each other as people before just coworkers, right? I think that goes with every industry.
Yeah, because you spend more time sometimes with your coworkers than your family. So it's like your second family. So it's good when families always get together.
Well, and I think with those hard situations too that we run into where, maintenance is dealing with a problem that they want to solve. I mean, I think most of maintenance, they're yes people. And sometimes we just can't always say yes in that moment. And I know that my teams sometimes take that home with them. And then in the office, if we can't solve it for a resident right then and there, we take it home with us. And, knowing that we're all in the same boat and it's not two separate problems, it's the same solution that we're trying to come to, I think is important. And it's just building those relationships with the people around you to make everything successful.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because sometimes it takes the office to smooth the residents over, and sometimes they might take maintenance to come over there and explain stuff to smooth things over. So when we both working together, it's great.
Yeah. Do you guys have any specific examples of things that the office team did to help help the maintenance teams in their day-to-day operations? Or I'd love to give our listeners some actual like concrete things that they could do.
Yes, the office really helps, even with work orders, being more detailed on the work orders for us. So we, instead of saying the bathroom and there's 2 bathrooms, they say the guest or whatever. And the same with maintenance, being more detailed when we closing out work orders. But sometimes they'll call the office before they know the work order is done. And if you got a detailed notes, the office can explain to them, yeah, they already went over there, they fixed this, this, and this. And then when I say as far as more details, it's because sometimes.
Floyd froze for a moment here. Audrey, have you seen anything that's been super impactful in that community or in that, divide, or he might be back?
Is he back?
Go ahead, Audrey.
Okay. One thing I think is like those simple, like little things, right? So I've always wanted to empower my teams, learn how to change a lock, learn how to cut a key. If it's a Saturday and someone needs a key, there's no reason I need to call my on-site maintenance to drive 40 minutes to cut a key. It's those simple things, that work-life balance, and just being able to jump in where you can. And again, it comes back to knowledge. If someone needs an air filter on a Sunday and they're throwing a huge fit, just knowing where those are and just being like, here we are. Floyd, you made it. You're back.
Yeah. Frozen for a minute.
But I think just knowing some of those little things, because if they're dealing with something that is going to take all day, it's going to take 3 hands on deck, being able to just do something simple, like someone wants their light bulb or whatever, and it's been out for 2 days, just knowing where things are and being able to solve some of the simple tasks, because the simple tasks still take a lot of time. You're going from one end of the building all the way back to the shop, to then back to the other side of the building, to then go over here, to then have to, and so just eliminating where you can, I think is really appreciated.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that.
In my experience, I was a maintenance tech on site and I was a maintenance supervisor, and I've worked at multiple communities. And I remember there was one community that I worked at, and there was a lot of that. There was a lot of, let me take on the simple tasks. Let me see what I can do to keep you guys moving with your tickets and your turns and the grounds. And then I transferred communities, and I remember it was a completely different staff. And I remember one day they called me and said, Jason, I need you to come to the office right now. And I said, all right, I'm gonna come. So I jumped in the golf cart And I drove down to the office and I got there and they said, I need you to get that package that's like up on the third shelf. And I remember sitting there and saying, like, I just felt like a gopher. I just felt like this tool. I felt more like a tool than a
person.
A person. Yeah, exactly. And they would have me, a resident would call and say, hey, I've got this strange noise. And so I went over, I stopped what I was doing. Once again, I went over to the apartment and I went in there and it was a kid's toy. So the batteries were dying on the kid's toy. And so I shut it off and I talked to the resident and everything was fine. And they calmed down and I left. But I remember thinking to myself, like, what was stopping the office from going and taking care of that remedial task? Or what was stopping them from getting a ladder and getting that package? Or so those were the things. And then that broke the trust, right? Then all of a sudden since I didn't feel like I was a coworker and they weren't helping, I just felt like I was, being utilized as a pawn. So, but yeah,
we have in most of our properties the fresh air intake fans, and they sit right next to the AC vents. But the switch is usually by the oven. So people turn it on thinking it's the light for the oven. They're like, my air is just blowing and blowing and blowing and blowing. And I'm like, did you hit the switch by your stove? That's what it is, But again, it's, knowledge is power. And I think, it goes the other way too for maintenance helping on site. Sometimes residents, I may be able to explain something in the way that I understand it, but some people want that nitty gritty detail. And I don't know all the verbiage. So sometimes I'm like, no, I need you to call this resident. And he's like, really? I'm like, yes, because you know what you're talking about. And this person wants to have a solidified answer. And I can't always give that, I don't.
Well, since that knowledge is power, I'm curious how you guys facilitate that. How do you help the maintenance team, the service team learn about what the office does and vice versa? And if there are any creative ways that your companies or other companies you've worked for have done that might be helpful to those out there looking for a way to share some of that knowledge between teams.
Yes. Well, the company I work for, we do like a day with maintenance. With new hires, spend one day with maintenance, and then
Awesome.
Vice versa, the maintenance spend one day in office to kind of know what they're going through too. So when you understand both jobs, you get a better understanding how it works together and create
For
that.
sure.
I think
Absolutely.
one of the things that I always talk to my teams about is that we're consumers too. And when you go to a car dealership or a car repair shop and you want to know about the condition of your car, what's going on with my car and when is it going to get fixed? And when the person behind the desk says, oh, I don't know, I'm going to go find out, let me get some information, I'll call you back in a couple hours, right? That's kind of frustrating to me. Whereas if I go into that car repair shop and I say, what's going on with my car? And they pull up some information and they say, oh, Floyd or Jason was working on your car and they wrote up some notes and this is what's going on and this is when it's going to be repaired. This is when the part comes in. That is really cool. And I think that it translates into what we're talking about, where the maintenance team can be able to help the office team by, in your system, whether it's Yardi or MRI or, whatever ticket system you have, detailed notes in the system. So that way our office personnel can, if they get that resident comes in and says, hey, I don't know what's going on with my ticket, that information is readily available. And it's right there. And that I think is key, because now, just like with that car repair shop, they can give the facts right really quickly to the resident and make them happy. So that was what I wanted to add to that conversation.
Well, I make kind of like a little cheat sheet for certain situations. Like if a toilet is overflowing, we leave a little cheat sheet with the office. They can explain how to reach behind the toilet, turn the water off. Or if your breaker tripped, they can teach you how to reset your breaker. Just a little sheet, they can go step by step for you. And it also helps the maintenance guys too, so we be able to do other things and they can take care of the little stuff like that.
That's
Audrey.
great, Floyd. I'd like a copy for my home, please.
Honestly. But the breaker thing, that's real. I can't tell you how many people don't know how to switch that on and off. And it's so simple when you know, but if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm a very visual learner myself. So for me, and I also try and encourage the teams, if someone's, it is something with, say, the drip pan. I didn't know what a drip pan was until I saw a drip pan. And so when it, is hot like this, especially in Texas, and those overflow and someone thinks there's a true leak. And sometimes I think just being hands-on and saying, take me with you, show me what you're talking about, so that when they call back and you've left for the day at 4 and they want someone to come over, I can go in and actually point out what it is, because they may be a visual person too. If you tell me a list of all these things as to why it's happening, I'm not always going to get it until I see it.
Yes.
So I think sometimes you just got to drag
Yes.
people with you and be like, let me just show you, and you're going to get it now. I promise.
Yes. I'm a hands-on person too, so I understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think one of the things that we didn't talk about much of, what I think we kind of hit on it, was celebrating accomplishments too, right? So celebrate when the maintenance team, the property looks great and it was ready for an inspection, right? Or the maintenance team celebrating the office when they finish a lease up, or they get the right occupancy, what we were targeting for the month. I mean, when we celebrate those things, it means something, versus just I'm coming to work and I'm punching in, I go do my turns and my tickets, and I rock on and go home at the end of the day, and vice versa.
Especially when you're celebrating something that everyone really played a role in,
Yes.
and taking the time to celebrate all aspects of how that became successful. But Floyd and Audrey, maybe you can answer a question we had from a listener about, so Floyd, how do you like being celebrated, or how does your maintenance teams like being celebrated? And Audrey, how do you like to celebrate your teams and your maintenance teams, and what's something special or fun that they've really enjoyed?
We're celebrating most of the time. When we celebrated, it'd be like we'd do lunch or something like that, a team lunch and stuff like that. Every now and then we'll get together after work, have a little social hour and stuff like that. What I used to celebrate a lot for any accomplishments, whether they set their goal for leasing and we accomplished this that week, and I set a goal for work orders and we got everything done in a certain time. I have kind of like a full bar in my apartment. So every day I did happy hour with just the co-workers and their spouse. So that was very enjoyable. They enjoyed that.
Yeah, we do a lot of like cookout things. So every couple months we'll go to like the Mexican meat market and get like the good short ribs and like the good marinated chicken and the rice and the tortillas and the habanero hot sauce, and we'll grill out, and it's just fun,
Yeah.
And I think when you have the moments where, yes, if you still need to get somewhere really quickly, there's an emergency, you're there. But I don't know, I think food is the best way to like share with people. That's how you get to know people. And they say, sitting around a dinner table, that's when you really get to see who people are, and it makes it fun and banter. And in those same moments you can still then have a team meeting and get back down to business. But I think just having fun, or even just being interested, I think showing interest in what they're doing every day makes a difference. I know when someone appreciates what I'm doing, it feels good. And so if I can help, or my favorite is when they bring the lift up, if we need to change like a light bulb in the vaulted ceilings, I'm like, can I please drive the lift? I'm terrible at it. But I think just showing an appreciation for what they do every day is a good way to, celebrate.
Yes, I like the team meetings. We have team meetings once a week. And then to break the ice, we just talk about stuff that has nothing to do with work, so people can loosen up and you can really get to know how their kids doing, their pets, vacation, what you're doing this weekend, just communicate, and then we'll go into the day. And that seems to break a lot of ice right there.
Yeah.
Floyd, how do you make those meetings how do you make them stick so that they're non-negotiable, and that they can't be pushed by every crazy thing that happens in property management? Is that something that you've figured out?
Yeah, that's kind of
pulling them. Just keep pulling them in.
Kind of a little hard. Sometimes they be happy, and then sometimes it depends on the day and the workload, But by the end of the meeting, everybody's happy. They might not be too excited at the beginning, but by the end, every time, everybody's happy.
Well, and if you're doing one that's meant to be fun, plan it for after like a big team accomplishment. So when you have those national tours where your CEO's coming and everything's, supposed to be sparkly as it can be. And those are stressful weeks leading up to that. Even if you run your properties well, 99% of the time, there's still that pressure. So being able to plan those celebrations after you've successfully accomplished something, just be like, yo, we did it. We did that together, and not just, make it a celebration. It doesn't have to be every day, but if it's intentionally planned around those stressful times, I think you get a little bit more of that participation. Yeah, exactly. They want that break.
Yes, because I'm also do student housing. So we do big turns when everybody move out.
Yeah.
So we do a big celebration before to get ready and a big celebration after.
It's really huge. I mean, Jason, you said earlier how when you felt more of a tool than as a person, it broke the trust, and those celebrations really go a long way to putting everyone on the same team and knowing you can count on people, and just lets you be people together, not necessarily, office and maintenance.
Yes.
Yes. Celebrate their personal accomplishments too, right? So like birthdays,
yes,
or work anniversaries. I've seen some teams where I walk in and they'll have a little birthday cake that they bought for all the people that are, born in that month, and they'll just do one birthday cake, and they'll hang out and they'll talk, and they'll ask them questions about their personal life. And I think we've all mentioned it. It's all just about connecting as people, and we have each other's backs. But if that trust isn't there and we're not, connecting, then it's just going to be a function. We just come to work and we're just punching in and we're punching out and we're doing our tickets and turns and going home. And that's what leads to turnover. The turnover and drives up costs. And so breaking bread and getting to know each other as people can go a long way.
Yes, understanding we all are human. We all going through the same thing really does.
Yeah.
Make it better.
Well, I really get it. What's that?
No, go ahead, Jason.
No, go for it. What
No, you started and then you made my brain freeze. So now it's your turn.
I was just going to say, I really get engaged when I get the opportunity to talk with people about how we can strengthen teamwork among a group of people. And I really enjoyed hearing your guys' stories. So I don't know if that helped kind of spur what you were thinking of, Audrey.
Well, no, but it gave me a different thought. You were talking earlier about how you were on the maintenance side prior and made that switch over. We have a couple employees who have done the same at AMLI, and it's so interesting, but I think it speaks so highly of the industry that you can change your trajectory depending on what interests you. And, there's just a lot of opportunity to learn things that, you're not stuck in one box. So I think if people just kind of realize that you don't have to be stuck in a groundskeeper role, that you don't have to be stuck in leasing or wherever you may feel stuck, that there are those opportunities. So again, back to communicating from maintenance to on-site. Without that communication, if you're missing that link, you may not see those opportunities or even know that you're capable of switching over to one side to the other. So I always love stories like that because it's not all that often. And I think people put themselves in a box, and we don't have to be in a box,
Yeah. You sound like you're a room to grow ambassador.
Exactly.
No,
it's a pretty special thing about this industry that there is so much room to grow, and that there are the career paths. They exist, but they don't have to look like this or like this. They can look like this, and they can, you can really try out a lot of different things in this industry and have success with them. So it is an exciting special point about multifamily and the rental housing industry.
Yeah. Well, I hope that all the listeners out there enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. I hope that you were able to take away some action items or things that you can use at your own community. I'd also like to mention that we have a free webinar on July 11th titled The Day in the Life of a Maintenance Team. It's at 2 p.m. and it's led by Paul Rhodes, and he is a great speaker, and I know that he's going to have a lot of great points. It's going to be a fun way to talk about what bogs down the day of our maintenance employees and how we can best help them accomplish their goals. So to register for that webinar, you can visit the TAA website, and there will be a link there. And
right.
yeah, and I also want to let our listeners know that our conversations are available on the go as a podcast, wherever you download your podcasts, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn. So
That's right.
as always, I'd like to thank you, Becca, for your time and support. And Floyd and Audrey, thank you as well for joining us.
Thanks for
We'll be-
having us.
And How to Speak Maintenance will be back on July 26th. We're going to be talking about how the service field can embrace and not be afraid of new technology like AI and how it can help. So we'll be talking about that. Should be super interesting. And Hints from HR, our other show, will be back on July 12th. And we'll be talking about how recruiting is the new marketing. So join us then here live on LinkedIn. And we'll see you all soon. So thanks for joining us.